Gemara. We are up to Daf Mem Amud Aleph, and we're concluding the first Pedic of Kiddushin, the longest Pedic in Shas. We are up to the Gemara in the middle of the page. Sorry, the two dots, right in the middle of the page. The two dots. It begins Haschus. Okay, so the Gemara says, Hazachus yesh la keren v'yesh la pedis. So if somebody does mitzvahs, he has the principle that he gets through, and he also has the dividends. Shenema, as it says, Imru tzaddik kitov, that the tzaddik says that we said before that it's good, and that he has the fruits of their work. We just started the Gemara here, continuing on the road of tzaddikim, and so on. Aveda, on the other hand, when it comes to Aveda, yesh la keren, you get the principle, the punishment for the Aveda itself, but the ein la pedis, there are no dividends. What do you mean? We don't punish you more than the Aveda itself. Shneimar says, oy l'rosha ra. The woe is to the Russia for the bad that they do, and that's all they get punished for, the bad. So the Elamani Mekayim, what do I do with the pasuk where it says, in that pasuk of Oil Rosh Hashanah, it says, the reward for his hand. Whatever they did, they did. By tzaddikim, it says that not only they good, that they also get the fruits of their labor. But by the Shayim, they only get punished for the Aveira itself. There's no dividends beyond that. The pasuk clearly says, that they will be punished for the fruits of their ways, from their terrible advice and ideas. They also get full, they're sated. So we see that they do get punished beyond what they did. So we answer as follows. Aveda, if Aveda also unfortunately goes beyond the Aveda itself, for example, make a Chil Hashem. Other people say, oh, that person could do it, and he looks like such a firm person, why can't I do it? So your Aveda now suddenly grew. Then Yesh Lepedis, then you get punished beyond what you just did personally. But if She'ein Lepedis, he did it discreetly, no one else saw, no Chil Hashem, just you did an Avera, then Ein Lepedis is then you don't get punished beyond Aveda itself. The Gemara says, Machshava Toiva Mitzarfa L'Maisa. If you have a good thought, we combine it with the action that you did. Now, what exactly does that mean? Machshava Toiva Mitzarfa L'Maisa. So in Nigla, someone to say that if you had a thought, it says actually in the Rekeach, if you had a thought to do a mitzvah, you didn't do it. Tomorrow you did a mitzvah, but you had no kavanah. We'll take the machshava that you had today. We'll combine it with a maisa, because it says machshava kodesh mitzvah the maisa. I mean, there is a maisa here. We'll combine it with the maisa tomorrow, and we'll put together as if they happened at the same time. In Tanya, it says that machshava is like the wings of a person. It's something that's, your feelings, your ava, and so on. The maisa is the mitzvah, is an act. And we're going to take something ruchnius, like your machshava, and we're going to connect it to the maisa and bring them together so that the machshava will lift the maisa to higher levels in Kedusha. Shneimar, it says, Oz nibru yidei Hashem ish le'eyu, they will speak to each other. Vayakshev Hashem will listen, and Vayishma, and you'll hear. Vayikosev sefer zikaron lifnei Hashem, he will write down, record it. Le'yidei shmai, those who fear him, u'lechosh shmai, those who think about him. So see, clearly from here, that machshava is considered, is counted as well. My u'lechosh shmai. What do you mean those who think about it? Here it doesn't sound like machshava. It's not a ma'isa, means there's a ma'isa, and we take machshava and count. And here it seems like chosh shmai. They don't even do a ma'isa. So what is that all about? Amar Abasi, I feel a chishav ad malas mitzvah. A person wanted to do a mitzvah and something happened. Unfortunately, he couldn't do it. But he didn't do it. That if you had a machshava to do a mitzvah, didn't doing it, is as if you did it. There's a big machlek of Yechon and Shlakish. Yerushalmi. Oines commander of it. In other words, he definitely won't get punished for not doing that, not doing the mitzvah. But do we say that the fact that he wanted to do the mitzvah, even though he didn't end up doing the mitzvah, is mamish the same thing as if he did the mitzvah, or not? Oines commander of it. Machshava ra ain't a good baruch mitzvah the ma'aser. When it comes to a bad machshava, Hashem does not combine it with a ma'aser. Shenem, how do we know that? Because it says a pasuk, oven, when it comes to a sin, imre isi beliba, even though he saw it, la yishma Hashem, it doesn't hear it. The Lamani Mekayim, which says there's another pasuk where it says, "Hineni maybe ra el amazeh," I will punish these people here on what? But pre machshavosim, the fruits of their thoughts. So we see clearly you're telling me about Vedas and machshava doesn't count, since clearly it does count. Machshava she'oise pri HaKadosh Baruch Hu zav l'maisa. So machshava, if your machshava, so now we'll explain what comes to Avedas. If your machshava brings you to do an Aveda, it will count, the machshava count. A machshava she'ein b'pi ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu zav l'maisa. So what does it mean, a machshava that brings you to a maisa? So Rashi says that if you had a thought to do an Aveda, and you actually did the Aveda, you get punished for both. You'll get punished for the Aveda, and you'll get punished for the thought. No, if you thought to do an Aveda, you didn't end up doing the Aveda, it doesn't count. This is what I told you the Chakira yesterday. If you do Tshuva, what happens to all those thoughts? But if you had a thought to do an Aveda, and then you ended up doing it, says Rashi, you're punished for both. Then there's no machshava. Then there's no punishment. You're punished for the Aveda. There's a beautiful sikh from the Rebbe in Kiseitze in the early sikhs. Why we say that by Aveda, Dov Hashem is Kavan, you didn't do an Aveda. You know, you're the mice if you had no kavan at all, and yet by mitzvahs we say that even if you have no kavan at all, you still did a mitzvah. Missing the kavana, one day holds, other day holds you don't even need kavana. What's the difference by Aveda if you don't have kavana? Nothing. And the Rebbe explains because the etzem of Rebbe Yid wants to do the mitzvah for the right reasons. We also want you begoli, but conscious level also feel it. But if you don't, you still did it for the right reasons. By Aveda, that's not who we are. So if you didn't have an intent to do the Aveda, then you don't want to do the Aveda. Even consciously, you didn't want to do it, so therefore it doesn't count. Others want to say that when you have a machshava to the Aveda and you didn't Aveda, what it means over here, you get punished for your machshava as well as for all your machshavas or Avedas. Because then it proves the reason why you didn't do Aveda, not because you felt guilty and you changed your mind, it's because you just didn't get around to it. But other times, other occasions, you had a thought of doing an Aveda and you did it. But Rashi says specifically that Aveda itself. That's what we can't come out to. Anyways, you want to write the Holy Spirit said by we had yesterday by the they got punished also, they got caught up from what they thought about. That's strict. You call a kaifa, whoever denies avodah zara as if you agree to the whole Torah, which is a very odd way of saying it. Because in other places it says if you're made it avodah zara, kill a kaifa kol kula. But the Gemara wants to be b'lashon nikia. The Gemara wants to be in a positive way. So the Gemara says, and obviously inference is if the other way around. But what do we bring right from here is avodah zara is equal to the entire Torah. Says the Gemara, I'll give another pshat what it means when it says that machshava counts towards an aveda. When the machshava does count. In a case where a person habitually does a certain aveda, and then he had a thought to do that aveda, that's as if he did the Aveda, because we know that there's no guilt over here. Because as we learned with Rav Huna a few times already, Rav Huna, like the famous Rav Huna, we had a number of occasions. What did Rav Huna say? Rav Huna said, if a person in Aveda repeated it, Hutrulai became permitted. Hutrulai, what do you mean? Because he committed Aveda a number of times, suddenly he becomes permitted? Sal Kedat, is that what you think it means? It doesn't even think twice. The first time, it's very difficult, you forget. Guilty the second time, the third time, fourth time, there's no longer any guilt. So therefore, it becomes and therefore, if you have a machshava, this person has a machshava to do that particular aveda, that machshava then becomes as if he did a ma'aser. Even if he didn't end up doing the ma'aser, we now know he didn't. The reason for changing is not because you change your mind, you feel guilty. True, no, we don't think that. You can do Aveda already. You better do it discreetly. If we do Chil Hashem, there's two things. As you said before, when you do Aveda as a Chil Hashem, then others will learn from you. So then it's a multifaceted Aveda. Not only did you commit an Aveda yourself, you caused others to do an Aveda. And that's what we said before, that you get punished not just for the Aveda, but also anybody else does Aveda because of you. It harms you. It says Va'atem Beis Yisrael. So the pasuk Va'atem Beis Yisrael. Koyam Al Hashem Elokim Nebish says Ish Gilulav L'chu Avodu Yidu Aveda and Va'achim Einchem Shoymim Alai. We don't want others to learn from you, to hear from you. Says the Gemara. Hashem Kachas Chalam. Therefore, it won't be a Chil Hashem. Omer Abeloi Hazakin. We had this a few times as well. And Abeloi Hazakin said that. If a person sees that his Yetzer Hara is very intense and he feels that he'll succumb, It's the wrong amount of it. Imraya Adam, I don't think there's any more Kiddushin. Maybe let's go. Yeah. Imraya Adam, if a person sees she eats them is gathered all of a person needs her to get stronger and stronger. Yelech lemakim she'ein makirin oisei. Go somewhere that no one recognizes you. The yilbash chaydim, dress in black. The yiskasesh chaydim, and cover yourself with black. The yasik kamoisha libe chafetz, there do what you want. But al yichal Hashem shemaim v'hesi. So here's a big machlekes to show you how to take this pshat in the Gemara. So Rashi obviously says that the idea is that if you dress in black, like people in mourning dress in black. Dressing in black, that in itself, someone will jolt you into reality, and maybe somehow or another will mitigate the seduction of the Yetzer Hara, whatever it is. But at least if you cannot control yourself, then go out somewhere where nobody knows you. So it won't be Chil Hashem. I said before, Chil Hashem, you also get punished for others' sake. And others want to say, or other Taser brings over here that because in addition to dressing in black, we tell you to go somewhere no one knows you. You have to travel as well. And but even if you have an intense desire or to grow over time, no matter how seductive something is, over time your interest wanes, and hopefully by the time you get there, it wanes. Other thing is but the Gemara's wording is mash libe chafetz, which is very strong word. Due to your heart's content. Anyway, so the Gemara again, but the point of this we're bringing up Loya Zakin is to tell you that you should avoid a Chil Hashem. Otherwise your Aveda multiplies. Says the Gemara, how does this fit in? It's what something else we learned. It's not so. By the time we learn, anybody who doesn't recognize or acknowledge the fact that the Eibush is there, and he doesn't deserve to be in this world. Mahi, what is that referring to? What do you mean you don't give covered payment? So Rabbah says, you know what it means? It means the hamastakel the kesh. You're not supposed to, even if you look at the kesh make a bracha, you're not supposed to stare at it. Mistakel means for a while. Not supposed to stare at it because it shows David's anger that he wanted to destroy the world, therefore you shouldn't show it. Rabbi Yosef is even Aveda b'seis. Fagagana goes to the Gazan because he's more worried of people than worried about the Eibishter. Same here, if you do an Aveda discreetly, that means you're embarrassed for other people. Yeah, you think the Eibishter doesn't exist. So it's a bigger Aveda. So what's going on? A minute ago you say it's better to do it discreetly, and here it says better to do it openly. If you can control your Yetzer Hara, then doing it discreetly means you don't believe in the Eibishter. That's terrible. If you cannot control your Yetzer Hara and you do the Aveda anyway, then might as well do it discreetly so that nobody else will learn from you. Like the Rabbi Loyazakin said, go to another place because obviously the guy can't control his desires. And also we learn, you sort of don't lend or you don't examine by come to Chil Hashem. What does that mean? That the Eibishter does not treat like a store, but when you have a store, you have a credit. So every week you go in, you buy, you write down the book, and once a month you pay off your debts. The Eibishter doesn't work that way. You make a Chil Hashem, he punishes you straight away. Not like a storekeeper that runs an ongoing credit. There's no credit when it comes to Chil Hashem. Is to tell you that if, let's say, we learned before that the world is half and half, and you have to do more. If your Avedis and Mitzvah is exactly half and half, but included in your Avedis is Chil Hashem, it tilts it to the right. Says Gemara further. What we learn? A person should see themselves. You should see yourself as if you're half and half. Also, mitzvah achas, he did one mitzvah ashra, then praiseworthy. He did one additional mitzvah. Now you tilted the scale on the side of mitzvahs. Oh, but aveda achas, he committed one aveda. So therefore, according to this opinion, it's all about you. But when it says he loyed him Adam after when are we talking about it? Every single day, every single minute? It sounds like about every day. But in the Rambam puts it together with Lichot Tshuva on Rosh Hashanah. First he says over there that Shneimar says in the passage there, the Chayte Echad Ya'abed Toiva Harbe, that one sin can cause you to lose everything. In other words, it tilts the balance. You have half mitzvahs, a lot of mitzvahs there, half of Vedas. You do one sin, tilts the whole thing. You lose everything because you tilted the scale. That's how you should see it. But it's only about you. Comes along Rabbi Loza but Rabbi Shimon, and he says, no, don't just think about yourself. You got to think about the world at large. The world, it's not just you, it's the world. You're treated, you are judged by the majority, by the world is being judged by what's the world like. Mostly Avedis, mostly mitzvahs, and you personally, mostly mitzvah Avedis, also mitzvah achas. When you do a mitzvah, don't just think about yourself. Think that you're affecting, impacting the whole world. You did one mitzvah, Ashraf Shechis, Atus Kolan Chavschus. Praiseworthy that you just tilted the entire world and yourself to Kavschus. Oh, but Avedach, if you made one sin, woe is to you that not only did you bring yourself down, but you impacted the whole world. Shenemar says, the same passage before, you caused the world, you deny the world all this abundance of good. Shimon Yochai says, so that's Rabbi Loza Rav Shimon. Comes along, that was his son. His father said, Rav Shimon Yochai says, Afilu tzaddik gomer, kol yom. Even if you're a tzaddik your entire life, umorad ba'acharaynu, you're a tzaddik your whole life, and then you rebelled toward the end of your life, even as a shyness. Like we had Yochanan Kohen Gadol, we had more than 40 years he was a Kohen Gadol, and then he became a tzduki. You forfeit all your credits. Shenema, it says in Pasuk, tzidkas ha-tzaddik, the righteous of the tzaddik, he's not going to protect him if he sins toward the end of his life. Doesn't matter what you did earlier. But I feel the Rosh is the other way around. I feel the Rosh Gama Kol Yom, a person who's a Rosh his entire life, but also Tshuva Bacharayna, like a Loza ben Daya in Mor's Avodah Zarah, Ein Maskin Lo Shuv Rishon. They will not even mention a word about it, the Avodah she did in the past. And it says, in the same passage, it says, the fact that he committed crimes, evil things, will not make him stumble. The Yom Shuvah Midisha, the day that he did Shuvah. Whenever this is so appropriate, it says Shuvah coming into Shabbos Shuvah. And it should be like L'chayda. Just one thing before we go further. This whole thing I'll be learning over here. Interesting. So we have the Tanakama about Rabbi Shimon. Tanakama says it's only about you, and others says it's about the whole world. So in the Rambam, you have broken up into two prokim. It's the two halachas. So one halacha the Rambam says about that you should know that you get judged, that you get judged by yourself, then the Medina, the country you live in, and then the world. Then the next halacha we talks about Uri Shem Shanasim and so on and so forth. Therefore, you should think that the whole world is half mitzvahs, half averis, and then in Rosh Hashanah. And the Rambam says between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, therefore we should add tzedakah, ma'asim tovim, and mitzvahs. So ma'asim tovim is not mitzvahs, nor is it tzedakah. It's like milchasadim, and we should do it. So the Rambam limits this first of all to. Seems like the Rambam is limited this to the period of tshuva of the seven tshuva, and the Rambam is saying. and the Rambam, whatever, and therefore we add mitzvahs, and he adds, the first thing he says, well, we should give more tzedakah during the Sesame Tshuva. And they wonder where the Rambam gets this from and so on. But he omits Medina. Like in our Gemara here. Our Gemara talks about you, the world. And yet, the halacha before, he talks about that you get judged, that you have to think that the world is, there's half and half you, and the country is half and half, and the world is half and half. And another thing, what's the point of your country if you think about the whole world and the world is good, then your country also be good. The world is bad, your country also be bad. Where does even your country come in? So the Mishnah Melech wants to learn that if the world is half and half, then we look at your Medina. So how is your own country doing? But if the world is a majority bad and majority good, then your Medina becomes irrelevant. Your Medina becomes irrelevant. Then there's a whole discussion. Who do we include in this world? The Magen Avraham has a whole discussion if children are included, people who don't have yet mitzvahs, their behavior. What about goyim? When we say the world, do we look at the goyim as well, and that impacts on the whole world, or is it only Eden how they behave in all the countries of the world? So that's a question. Anyway, so it comes along over here, and he says here that a tzaddik A tzaddik, if he's the end of his life not doing Avedis, we erase everything he did in the past. No matter why. At worst, it should be, let's count all the mitzvahs he did and now we did a couple of Avedis and make at least half and half. That's like a Bainini. It's an unbelievable thing. If a person regrets, I lost 1 second. Oops. Sorry. What I said in the phone fell down. Was it being
the sound was okay.
Okay, sorry for that. Okay. So anyway, so this idea that if you regret doing a mitzvah, it eradicates the mitzvah, which is very difficult to understand. As Chassidus explains, that in life we cannot ever go back. Whatever we did, we move forward. The only time we can go through a time machine is when it comes to tshuva. We have the capacity to go back in time, take the averas that we did, and transform them into mitzvahs. How can we do that? How can you go back in time? So Chassidus explains that mitzvahs, there's different levels of Hashem. So you have the level of Hashem, which is the Ritzonos, the mitzvahs themselves. And then you have the Bala Ratzon, the one that conceived these Ritzonos. So when we do a mitzvah, and we didn't do the mitzvah we should have done, so we affected the Ratzon. We didn't do what we should have done. So what's tshuva? Why tshuva, according to many, is not even considered a mitzvah? Because it's higher than a mitzvah. Tshuva, we're dealing directly with the Bala Ratzon. We're dealing at a much higher level, and we're trying to say to the Bala Ratzon, please forgive us. And therefore, we have the capacity to go through a time machine and undo what we did in the past. So how does it come in here that you can do the same thing about Aveira? That if you take a mitzvah and you regret doing the mitzvah, we're undoing what I did. How? We were going to the Bala Ratzon, we're saying the Bala Ratzon, take those mitzvahs that we did and undo them. Why would the logic behind this is difficult to understand, how we have the capacity to undo the past when we're trying to turn it from good to bad. Good is nitzchis and bad isn't. Good is eternal. That's actually the logic behind all this. Anyway, thinking about it further, kol sheyeshnei b'mikra, anybody who's in mikra, chumash, or mishnah, and learning how to do, we had before mishnah is, how to do mitzvahs, uve derech eretz, and being a mensch, bring a mensch. First thing we say in the morning in davening is be a mensch. If you have these qualities, that you're a scholar, you're learned, and you're a decent person, and you have values, you don't sin so quickly. Remember, it says, like it says in Big Yavis, that if you have Toidim Derechedes, Yigia Shneim Mishkachas Avim. If you work in both, you won't do sin. My father used to say, hopefully he will continue saying, that Yigia Shneim, when they both touch each other, Mishkachas Avim, there's no time to sin. If you learn, and then you work, and you do all the right thing, and you're an ethical person, then the two touch, the overlap. Not like some people are very, very frum, but when it comes to ben adam l'chavera, they're a bit weaker. Or other people are very, very mahad, they're very frum when it comes to social issues, but when it comes to the relationship with Hashem, they're a bit weak. So that, but if you both overlap, then mishkachas avim, all sins will be forgotten. There will no time to sin. Why these three things? Remember, it says a string that has a rope that has 3 strands in it is very, very strong. It's very difficult to actually tear it off. We're going to have it's there. It says this pasuk is being used for grandfather, a father, and a son. All 3 of them learn Torah together, and they all see each other, as Taisa says. Then the Torah will continue in that family for many generations to come. Over here, we're saying if you behave in 3, and we used it also before, or some Rishonim use it, when we say that a person should learn a third of the day Chumash, a third of the day Mishnah, a third of the day Gemara, is again learning Shalosh Adam, the same idea. A 3-strand string rope won't tear quickly. If you don't have these things, you're not a normal civilized person. Strong words. You're not from the society as should be. What are tzaddikim? We're talking about tzaddikim that are imperfect. What are they compared to? We already had this yesterday. Shekula, it's a similar tree. The tree itself, the roots and everything else is all in a good place, in a place that's pure. One of the branches is sticking out in a place which is not so good. Committed a couple of other areas. Is niktzatz neifai. If you cut down that branch, the entire tree is preserved. So therefore, tzaddik sometimes has to suffer in this world, because this way they can go straight to Gan Eden. We got rid of the bad branch. Maybe they sometimes suffer in this world. Today, go straight into Gan Eden. Remember, it says, in the beginning, because of it is a beginning tight, but the end, everything will flourish. What are the Rishonim compared to this world? The Elon, a tree, the entire tree is in a bad place, impure. The knife, but every Rosh does a few good things. It says in Medrash, an amazing Medrash, that the Haman HaRasha, why was he zeicher that his grandchildren should learn Torah? You know why he was zeicher? Because when the Achashverosh gave him the 10,000 shekels, he said, "No, you want to give me 10,000 shekels? I should give you the permission to harm the Jews people. Keep the 10,000 shekels." So the Medrash says, what did he do with the 10,000 shekels? He gave it to the poor. So he said he did one good thing. Therefore, his Bnei Banav learned Torah in Bnei Brak. But here he did one good thing. The branches is niktas neifa kulam. He cut off the branch, then he's totally bad. They get a little bit of reward in this world. They should get the lowest of the lowest kind of Gehenna because they're all evil. It says, sometimes you see a person living a good life, and the end will be not what they think. We're talking about in the Mishnah being important of learning, and the Mishnah is how to do mitzvahs. Mitzvahs, so a fascinating thing. Chassidus talks a lot about it. Tarfon Iskani was sitting in Aliyah's base Nitzah Belud, was sitting there in the attic, in Lud, by this person's house. And this question was thrown out there: Talmud Gadol and Ma'aseh Gadol. What's greater, learning Torah, the scholarship, or doing mitzvahs? He said, surely mitzvahs. Surely learning. And the rest responded, Talmud Gadol, learning is greater. Talmud maybe they mice, because learning brings to mitzvahs, which is the most difficult Gemara here. So which is greater then? Chassidus talks a lot about it. Well, so which is greater? Can you tell me that the learning is greater, but you know why it's greater? Because it brings you to the mitzvahs, which means the mitzvahs is greater. Very confusing. So Tosfos here actually says, from the Gemara Baba Kama, we'll learn not so long. The end of the first page, they were there. It comes out from the Gemara. The Gemara seems to be learning that mitzvahs are greater. So Tosfos wants to say that there's learning on your own and learning with other people. If you learn on your own, the mitzvahs are greater. If you learn and with other people, then learning is greater. Or there's another shot is in the beginning of life you have to learn. How do you know how to do mitzvahs? You have to learn, and then later on it becomes mitzvahs. The Rambam changes one word. He adds actually a letter. The Rambam says in the Rambam Talmud Gadol u'mevi l'dei ma'aseh. It doesn't say shem mevi, which is out which means like this. Talmud Torah has two purposes. It itself is a mitzvah also, plus it teaches how to do all the mitzvahs. Therefore, you know why Talmud Torah is greater? Because it is its own mitzvah, plus and also it brings you to do other mitzvahs. Therefore, the Rambam said that's what. So that's how he learns Shat, which is changes the whole perspective here. Talking about it further. Tanya, we learned. Rabbi Yossi says, learning is so important that it preceded the mitzvah challah. Mitzvah challah is different from all the mitzvahs. As soon as you enter the land of Israel, you're already chayiv to give the challah there. But to a kohen. However, it's 40 years after Mount Sinai. So Talmud pre-exists the challah 40 years. But they didn't start Trumas and Maaseh till they settled the land 14 years later. 7 years of conquest, 7 years of settlement of the land. L'shmitim, then Shemitah started 7 years later. As soon as they settled the land, they started counting the 7 years, so that's the 50 years. Shmitim is Shishevachas. So it was 54 years, you add 7, 61. L'Yevlis, now Yevlis you started Shemitah, the 50th year. Meya v'shalosh. So it became 103. So you want to Meya v'shalosh, Meya v'arba havin. If you count 50 years, it's 104. He thought that Yovel starts in the beginning. In other words, by Shemitah, we say, according to many, that the Shemitah, when does it cancel? That's the very end of the year. Yovel is the very beginning of the year, so therefore we don't look at that year as a year, so in the beginning of the year. Others want to say, so what's the difference in Maksha and Tachin? The Machlek is when in Yovel do Avodim go free, Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur. So Rosh Hashanah means he didn't even start one day in the year. We have a Gemara before in Rosh Hashanah. Yom is Kishana, Yemechet Kishana, Kachedish, and so on. So if you learn that, the Gemara thought it's Yom Kippur. If it's Yom Kippur, 10 days in the year, that's like a whole year. Why don't you count that? So when the answer is no, we hold it Rosh Hashanah, and therefore we cannot begin counting that year. What I don't understand this Gemara here is, So it's not only Torah that preceded Chal and Shemitah. Every mitzvah that was given to the Eden and the Har Sinai precedes Chal and Shemitah and everything else. So why give all the credit to Talmud Torah? Give the credit to all those mitzvahs that were given in Har Sinai. I don't know. But then the Gemara says, how important is learning Torah? Just like limud is kaidin l'maisa, we just said, kach dina kaidin l'maisa. When we get judged in olam emes, the first thing they punish you for if you didn't learn Torah properly. What is the person's punishment? Only on the words of the Torah. Remember, it says, the very first thing we get judged is did you fulfill your mitzvahs with mayim? And we have in the Gemara, ein mayim ella Torah. A mayim is Torah. Just like you get punished for Torah first, you get rewarded first. And it says, so they give him all these wonderful things. And why? Yeroshu, because Yishmeru Chukav, they kept his Chukim. Yishmeru, we learned before, Shmartim is doing mitzvahs. And with Torah of Yinsairu. Shmartim, so we learned before Shmartim was learning Torah to know how to do mitzvahs. And with Torah of Yinsairu, interesting. The Pasuk clearly says Torah, but we're swapping the pshat and we're saying that Yishmeru means Torah and Torah means mitzvahs. Interesting. Taisus finds it difficult because we learned in the Gemara Shabbos over there that the first thing they ask a person when you're members is nosativ and nosativ amuna. Did you what was the integrity like when you did business? You're honest. And here the Gemara says the first thing is Torah. So Taisus answers the most cryptic thing, which really needs explanation. Taisus answers. The first question they ask you about is business, but the first thing we get punished for, because the Gemara is talking about punishment, they were talking about the question. The question is business. Were you honest in life? But the first thing we get punished for is for Torah. What's why? Why? So it seems like the most important thing is to be ben adam lechaveri. But if you didn't learn Torah, you don't know what the laws are ben adam lechaveri. So the first question is the most important thing: were you a mensch? Did you make a chil Hashem? Because ben adam lechaveri, if you don't behave properly, it's a chil Hashem. They don't get only upset with you. This is how a Jew behaves. But then when it comes to the punishment, we say, but why? Why didn't you behave properly? Because you probably didn't learn Torah. So maybe that's what Taisus means. Let's just finish the whole Gemara. And then the Gemara says, Kol she'einu, the Mishnah says, if somebody doesn't learn, that has no scholarship whatsoever, and is not an ethical person, einu min hayishuv, he's not part of society. What does that mean? You cannot trust his testimony. You cannot trust his evidence. And Rashi says, because once we've established that he's not a person that can fit into society, that means he has no self-dignity, no self-esteem, then he has no shame. Because if he had shame, even shame alone keeps people, in check. Then how can we trust the word he says? He doesn't care if he lies, he doesn't care if people make scoff at him or make fun of him. What does he care? So we can't trust him. So what have we learned? If a person eats in the marketplace, that is a daim melekelen, like a dog. The yesh oimim, dog means it's unethical. The yesh oimim pasal le'edus, you're pasal le'edus. Now, what again? That means you have no self-dignity. Then, of course, it depends where you are and what you are, and so on and so forth. Taisus actually answers the Gemara where it says that our mayor said to that the mayor said to Rebbe's son of Shimon, he saw him eating in the street. He said, it's pasnished, it's not suitable, appropriate for Talmud Chacham to walk right down in the street. What do you mean? So here it says that it's forbidden. So Taisus now suddenly changes the whole Gemara. When we say you're eating in the street, you daimel lekelev or you postulated, talking about you stole the food that you ate. So everybody asks, Taisus himself asks, if you stole it, you're a ganef, and a ganef is postulated. What do you have to tell me you ate? Who kids where you ate it? You're a ganef, you're a ganef. So Taisus makes a chiddush. You stole less than the value of a prutta. And this causes a lot of achreim talking about. We know, as I'm paskin, if you steal less than the value of a prutta, you're still a ganef. You don't have to pay back, but you're still a ganef. So, but the vart is, why are you apostle aiders? Because money. You have no respect for money. But where it's not money at all, because less than prutta is not money, even though it's an aveda, doesn't make for a person. It does another aveda. It's not apostle aiders. It's only when you have no respect for people's money. So maybe that's a difference.
There's another shop that you walk around tasting from every one.
Like a dog.
That's not eating anything. I'm not buying anything. You're just going around.
Traces, however, Rabbi Tam concludes, this is only talking about bread. Chewing gum in the street, you might be like my Rebbe says, you're a malagera. You're chewing your cud all the time. You're not a thing. eating ice cream in the street. Taisha says the very last line. I'll re-quote you because you remember this in case you ever eat ice cream in the street. But I bet time Peter the oichel b'shuk. You know what it means? Hainu she'oichel suda the pas. Only to eat bread. The gnai yosef. You're eating a meal. It's one thing having a snack. Casual snack. But eating a meal while you're in the street, public, all these outdoor restaurants.
They would have approved on this on-street dining they have.
Yes, what's the name for that? Gemara says further. The apostle Aedis. Bakapora said, Ragzin, somebody has a temper. If you remember, Rabbi Yosef said the three worst things, and he had all of them. Fastidious temper. So you also be what do you achieve by getting angry all the time? It actually impacts on your physical health as well. Anxiety and all of these things affect, and anger is the worst thing. It actually says it actually makes you weak, physically weak. You gain nothing being angry. So what's the point? Go to anger management or talk to yourself and say, there's no point in getting angry. So what am I doing? I'm just harming myself. But to a good person, a good person, not only does he get schar haba, you will also get the dividends of what you do. So somebody doesn't learn no scholarship and is not a mensch, all of his satisfaction of life dissipates and disappears. Remember, it says, and not only that, you should keep away from them. You should have nothing to do with such people. Forget about them; they're a lost cause. But you should have nothing to do with them, because it says, those people are jesters. What's the definition of a leitzim? A leitzim is somebody who's not interested in scholarship and is not a mensch. Seems like you're lacking in all three of them.
Also a scoffer.
Yeah, but that's but you're going to do touch now. They were saying Moshe Leitzim is somebody who has no interest in scholarship and is not a mensch. No, not sit together with the Moshe Leitzim. Halach uniqueness.